that meal prep life. So these are the things you're going to need. Food processor, chickpeas, can of chickpeas, really can be any size. Almonds, I'm using whole natural almonds, so low sodium, there's no added sugar, just kind of truly au natural is what we're doing there. And then I'm using, it can be any dried fruit, but I'm using prunes, just because the fiber, and there is orange essence too, so it adds some good flavor. Then what you're going to actually do to begin with here is just take the almonds whole as is and throw them in the food processor. Going through this process, I know it might seem like you wouldn't trust that this is going to fully condense and break down, but it is. I mean, using a food processor, if you have like a heavy duty blender, you could probably do the same and use that instead of this food processor. You're just going to run through. I will fair warning, it's going to be extremely loud going through this for probably the first 10 to 20 seconds and breaking down, but it will work. It'll ultimately turn into this, and this is what it's going to start to break down and look like. It's very similar to almond flour. I mean, basically, this is breaking down to almond flour. So if you really wanted to, I guess you could just buy chopped almonds to simplify it. I think it's a little cheaper this way. That can of almonds, I believe, is 8 ounces, and it was on sale for about $3, which is definitely going to be cheaper than if you buy chopped almonds in the store. But just run through it, and you're going to be going through, breaking it down, and then it'll look like this. So fairly coarse and fine. You can check. I'll actually reach in here just to make sure that it is powdery, that it's not too coarse. And it was, so we're good to go from there. Now, the second step is taking the chickpeas. What I'm actually going to do is drain some of this and just kind of contain it, because we're going to use some of the juice from this chickpea can. It's 1/4 of a cup is what I'm keeping here. And then I actually drain the rest. I tend to rinse it just so the sodium's out of it too. And then with the drained chickpeas, pour the entire can in there. We're just going to throw it all in there and blend it in. This is pretty much a perfect balance between the coarseness of the almonds and blending it with the chickpeas now. Chickpeas are soft, they've been in a can, so that's obviously going to blend well. I know in my previous video we go through this too. Just chopping it down, same process, running through. It's not going to be as loud, so it will be better on this. Just patience and consistency at this point is what you're doing. Going through and pulsating this. You do want to pulse it. Don't just let it run and burn out your blender or food processor. You really do want to make sure to keep it at least not too worn up. And then we're going to take the juice now. So you're just taking that 1/4 cup of canned juice from the chickpea, throw it in there. It doesn't matter what paste, just dump it in there, because you're going to take that and blend that in now, trying to re-soften everything and spread it out. I mean, really, you're making an almond butter. I know there's chickpeas in it as well, but almond butter spread. So going through, you definitely want to make sure to do your best to kind of fold it over. I get kind of lackadaisical here too, so you can do a better job than me, but you can take a knife and, exactly like I said, just kind of rub through, make sure that it's pretty balanced as far as the spread goes. This in itself is actually probably good enough to go, but I'm going to do a handful more left to it, just to make it a little better, just to make it a little more run down. This is kind of like a dried hummus paste, almond butter paste, if it kind of like crunchy peanut butter, I guess, which I don't want. So I'm going through and making it a little more broken down. I want it smoother to eat. At this point, though, you are going to take your dried fruit and you're going to pour it right in there. I do want to point out, it can be any type of dried fruit. I think people are probably afraid to be using prunes, but prunes are just plums. I know a lot of people are like, oh my God, it's fiber. I don't want that. I'm going to be running the bathroom, blah, blah, blah. You can use any fruit you want. The prune really does. I mean, it just adds fiber to it. A lot of people don't get enough fiber in their diet, so it's well worth pointing out. It's this bag that's getting broken down for meal prep for the week. So it's over 5 days, so it's really not that bad. There is plum jelly, so it's a lot like that. Bear that in mind too. That's one reason I like to do it as well. The orange essence just kind of adds to it and makes it almost like a mix with that marmalade flavor. Going through, I will point out, it's definitely not going to be jelly. You're just going to blend that through, and you are going to have the chunks. I actually like the chunks of fruit being in it. It just helps with some of the consistency. It makes it a little nicer instead of just this like softened peanut butter mush type substance that you have going on there. So it's kind of nice that way to just have it chopped up. I mean, it chops it up for you in this. And then I'm actually going to use olive oil. You're using 1 tablespoon. It's not a whole lot. So 1 tablespoon over the course of the week. So it's getting broken up by the 5 days there. Just pour that in here. You really don't have to do a whole lot. You can mix it in a little bit as well, but the benefit of using a heavy duty blender or food processor is exactly that. It's doing exactly that and blending everything up for you. So just throw the lid on there. We'll continue using this, pulsing it, trying not to wear it out too much because you are using the food processor a lot at this point, or your blender if that's how you're doing it that way. But you're going to run through and just go through that, continue blending down this paste to a smoother substance here. And then I'm going to take raw honey. Yeah, it could be any type of honey. It could be any type of sweetener, really. But I'm actually going to go through and use basically 1 tablespoon, I think. It's 1 spoon, it's a small spoon, of that honey that you're adding to it. It's not a whole lot, so that's all I'm going to use here. The reason I'm doing it, even though there is sugar in prunes and with the orange essence, I'll be honest with you, this is not going to be sweet. So the honey 100% helps just kind of add that to it. It's just a good way to kind of get the added sugar to this because it is truly not going to be that sweet with it blended in there, and especially even the spoon blended over 5 days broken down, not a whole lot for you. So then you just take the lid, put it back on there. I swear we're almost done with this food processor. I know you're probably getting bored and wondering at this point how in the world your food processor can keep up or your blender is going to be able to keep up with this. But it is. I mean, you keep pulsing, keep just being patient, breaking it down. This will be the last step on going through that, and this will actually keep it broken down and smoothest can be. Then you're going to set your oven. We're going to preheat it. So I'm setting it at 350 degrees, as you can see here. Set that aside, and we'll get set up. Now, when I say set up, I'm taking bread pieces, setting that aside. What you're actually going to do is lay out the peanut butter and spread it on these bread pieces. I want to point out, too, I'm using a grainy bread to help make sure it's not going to be too soggy. It helps just kind of toast it. Obviously, I'm doing it on a pan, so foreshadowing, we're going to be toasting it. It ends up looking like this. So these are pretty heavy duty. They're heaping. You just want to lid those bread pieces like that. Cover them up, and again, any multigrain, wheat, anything like that, rye probably would work too. Anything that has grain is going to help just keep it hearty. Really, the goal in toasting this is 1, to melt the spread down a little bit and get it connected, and then 2, just to make sure the bread is stiff enough that it's not soggy. I'm setting this in the oven not for too long. It's just 6 minutes now at that 350 degrees. And then setting that kind of sign, forget about it for the 6 minutes and let that go. I do want to point out this is the bread that I'm actually using here. It's sprouted bread. There's no salt added. Multigrain, you can see. Very good for this. Very good for toasting. I'm assuming everyone, if you're probably watching this, you probably have had peanut butter and jelly as a child and had that soggy bread that was bagged up, and it's terrible. I mean, I remember being a child and not wanting to eat peanut butter and jelly because of it. So toasting definitely helps with that. You can see it's stiff. I always check it, compulsively just checking everything. It's a little crunchy. Perfect. Good to go is the way it is. Now you're going to take this and just Tupperware it. That's the point of that meal prep life. So you're throwing everything in there. Should look like that. Spread is set. Just cover it and you are good to go. This is your new life, that meal prep life number 2, almond butter and jelly alternative, healthy for you, Monday through Friday. You are set.